All right, we are live and recording. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. So today we're going to dive into the three levers for changing your body composition, and the three levers that you need to learn how to adjust, change, manipulate if you want to make progress both in the short term and long term in your fitness or fat loss, weight loss, body composition journeys. So, and I want to talk about this because, and I talk with a lot of people through Messenger, talk with clients, once they sign on, and there's so many variables when it comes to working out, when it comes to nutrition that you can obsess over and focus on that a lot of times don't really matter that much. Or you're focusing on these details that matter a little bit, but you're missing the forest for the trees, and you're missing these big rocks that you should be focusing on and should be manipulating first before stressing about, okay, am I eating at this time of day? Am I eating this specific food? Is that specific food bad for me? Like, these types of things matter very little if you have these big three rocks in check. So we're going to go over what those three big rocks or these three big levers are today. So number one lever that we need to be able to manipulate if we want to change our body composition, whether that's losing body fat or building muscle or maintaining, our body mass or body weight, is our energy in lever. Energy in lever refers to how many calories we are intaking through our food, through our drinks, any kind of beverage, any kind of snack you eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, right? Calories, which I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have heard of calories in some capacity. That is one lever that we need to be able to manipulate to see progress. Now, it's not as just straightforward as how many calories are we eating, because calories obviously come from different sources. You can get calories from alcohol, and that will have an entirely different impact on your body composition versus if you were getting your calories from grilled chicken or some kind of protein. If you're getting calories from nothing but McDonald's, that will have a different impact on your results compared to if you're getting your calories from, let's say, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins, right? But the overarching principle and the big lever to control is calories. And if you eat, at the end of the day, the same amount of calories in what your body burns, your body composition or body weight is going to stay very similar. And if you, at the end of the day, eat less calories than what your body burns, your body composition will shift in a different way, where you're going to lose some kind of tissue, whether it be fat tissue or muscle tissue. And we're going to talk about what distinguishes the difference between if you lose fat or if you lose muscle, kind of in the next lever, kind of some foreshadowing there. But if you eat less calories than what you burn, you're going to lose some kind of tissue that contains energy in some way. And if you eat more calories than what your body burns per day, you will gain some kind of tissue in some capacity, whether it be fat mass or muscle mass. Now, there are obviously nuances and details in here that impact then how many calories we end up eating. So we talked about like the protein part of this. We talked about the fruit and vegetable part. If you're eating leaner proteins and you are eating more fruits and vegetables, that will impact how many calories you are able to take in, likely without feeling overly stuffed or super hungry, versus if you are eating nothing but McDonald's and fried foods for your calories, that's not going to be as filling. So because of that, you're more likely to shift that energy inside of the equation to eating too many calories if you're eating nothing but processed foods. And if you're eating more whole foods, you're more likely to shift that energy inside of the thing to either maintenance level, to where you're maintaining your body weight, or maybe even into fat loss if you're eating those other forms of calories or forms of food that contain different levels of calories. So, and I think this is where people get tripped up, is because they, maybe have never tracked their calories and they ate a bunch of processed food, and they realized, they were constantly gaining weight, and then they shifted to eating more whole foods, and they're like, I'm losing weight. So it must be that processed foods are just more fattening necessarily than whole foods. And on a per calorie basis of what you actually absorb from that food, it's not necessarily more fattening, which is surprising. It's just the fact that when you eat those highly processed foods, they taste really good and they don't fill you up as much, so you're more likely to overeat them. Now, there are some other details regarding protein that we'll kind of get into in the second lever when it comes to body composition. But in a simple sense, like these processed versus unprocessed foods, it's not that they are necessarily more fattening by themselves, on a bigger level. When we really zoom out, it's just that most of the increase in fat gain that you see from eating these types of foods is because, like I said, they don't fill you up and they cause you to eat more of them because they just taste so good. So other areas that impact this energy inside of the equation is how much sleep we get. So if you take somebody and they're getting consistently 5 hours of sleep and they're just kind of eating out of habit and eating whatever they feel like eating after getting 5 hours of sleep, over time, they're probably going to gain weight. But if you take that same person then, and then you put them in an environment where they're able to actually get 8 hours of sleep consistently, I guarantee you that the food choices that they naturally gravitate towards are going to be food sources that are lower in calorie. They are going to be food sources that fill them up a little bit more, that aren't like super salty or super sugary to where they make you want to eat more of them. And also your hunger is going to be better regulated after an 8-hour night of sleep versus 5 hours of night. So here's another scenario where somebody could, not sleep very well for 2 weeks and constantly be gaining weight, and then all of a sudden get 8 hours of sleep for a couple of weeks in a row and lose weight. And they're in their mind, if they're not tracking their energy inside of the equation or their calories inside of the equation, they're thinking, oh, like sleep in and of itself causes more fat loss to this huge degree. But it's not necessarily the sleep, it's the sleep impacting your food choices and impacting the energy inside of the equation. And there are a variety of other different layers of this that we can dive into with hormones and how those impact the foods you end up choosing to eat and how much of them. But overall, the energy inside of the equation is one of the biggest levers that you can pull and manipulate to change your body composition. And manipulating and adjusting those other parts of your life, your food choices, your sleep habits, your stress management, will overall make changing your energy inside of the equation easier. So they don't impact the energy inside of the equation like directly by all of a sudden you just don't absorb as much food if you eat the same amount, but they do impact the choices you make that then impact your energy inside of the equation. So that's lever number one, is the energy in, or the calories that you eat is the number one thing that you can manipulate to change your body composition. Now, number two, let's move on to lever two when it comes to body composition change. And this is muscle mass. And we can manipulate muscle mass in two ways. The biggest way is by lifting weights or resistance training. And we want to ideally be doing that to where we're hitting each muscle group twice per week. That's really kind of the sweet spot for like when we look at the research of where we're pretty much maximizing like how much muscle retention and muscle growth we can achieve on a weekly basis for like the biggest bang for a buck. You could go up to 3 times a week for some muscle groups, but you don't get as much of a benefit going from 2 to 3 as you do from 1 to 2. When you go from 1 to 2 days per week, you get this huge benefit of how much more muscle you can build, gain, maintain, which is super important for your body composition. And I always, say this, like you might be watching this or listening to this and thinking, I don't really care how much muscle I have on my body. I just want to lose weight and be thinner. But having more muscle will make losing weight easier. It will make, when you do lose the weight, your body look more toned, shaped, defined. It also has a ton of health benefits, regardless of how it makes you look. So we want to maximize the muscle on our frame, without doing any kind of like anabolic drugs or anything like that. So number one way to maximize our muscle mass and to adjust that lever is by how often we are lifting weights. And the ideal range is hitting each muscle group twice per week And you can do that through a 2 full body day a week, like workout split. You can do that by doing 3 days a week and doing a lower body day, an upper body day, and then a full body day. You could do that by 4 days a week by doing a lower body day, an upper body day, and then another lower body day and an upper body day. Or you could do that by 5 days a week by doing maybe a lower, upper, and then splitting up your upper into like a push-pull setup, and then your 5th day being another lower body day. You could even split this up 6 days per week and do like push, pull legs. But I will say, like, I've done 6 days a week consistently for a long time. Like years ago, I don't anymore. 6 days a week is pretty up there for most people. And I would say most people have a really hard time recovering from that. I would say 3 to 4 days a week of lifting is the sweet spot for most people for like general health. If you are more of an advanced bodybuilder and you really want to take it up a level, maybe going to 5 days a week could be beneficial. But I would say most everyday people, 3 to 4 days a week of lifting is great. But you want to hit it twice per week, each muscle group twice per week. That's kind of like, you want to be able to check that box off. The next thing that you can do to manipulate that muscle mass lever is eating the right amount of protein. And this kind of goes back on some little comments I kind of foreshadowed on in the beginning of this video. But protein intake is super important for building, maintaining, keeping muscle mass around, because that's what our muscles are made up of: protein, amino acids. And it's like lifting weights is the stimulus that needs to be produced or needs to be there for our bodies to like build and keep muscle. And protein kind of like allows that process to happen as far as building muscle. So they're both really important. Protein doesn't necessarily build muscle in and of itself. You need some kind of stimulus to kind of signal to use that protein to build muscle for it to be used for that. But you kind of need both to maximize things. So that's why, like, when I have clients, get started with things, we always start with a calorie and a protein range, because the calorie range hits that first lever as far as, what we need to manipulate to change our body composition, the energy inside of the equation or the calories inside of the equation. So the calorie range we give them hits that lever. Then they start with a protein range, which helps to hit the muscle mass lever, along with having a tailored custom lifting workout program based towards them, their schedule, their workout equipment, all of that, which helps to hit that second lever too, which is why those are 3 out of the 4 main things we focus on. And the 4th one I'll talk about, in a second. Those are the 3 out of the main 4 things we focus on to get started and really manipulate week to week, because that's what's going to really push 95% of your progress forward. Now, the third lever when it comes to changing your body composition is then how many calories you are expending out. So how many calories you are burning. And the way and this encompasses all the calories you burn, not just through exercise, which is what most people think of, but even just your body living, like your lungs working, your heart beating, all of these things, your cells in your body constantly being repaired, recycled, all of that like requires energy, and you burn calories from your body doing that. So this third lever, the energy outside of the equation, includes that, but it also includes any movement you're doing, any other outside activity. And the way we manipulate this with clients is a target step goal. And this is the reason why I do a target step goal is because, one, it's very easy to keep track of. You just have to have some kind of step tracker. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Doesn't have to be a fancy Apple Watch, Fitbit. Can't just be a cheap pedometer that's like $20 on Amazon. So it's easy to keep track of. Number 2 reason why step goal is so great for keeping track of this is that it doesn't fatigue you too much. It doesn't make your energy crash so much. You could walk around for a couple of hours and still have just as much energy as if you, maybe sat on the couch. And anything, maybe it makes you feel more energized because you actually we're moving a little bit. Versus if we were to program like cardio to try to manipulate this energy outside of the equation. Cardio a lot of times causes so much fatigue and energy drop afterwards if you're doing like intense cardio that Then when you're done with it, all you want to do is just lay on the couch and not move afterwards. So you might burn more calories during the actual cardio that you're doing, but after you're done with the cardio, you burn less calories than what you would have if you didn't do the cardio to begin with, because you just lay around all day on the couch. Like I can't tell you how many times I've done a really hard workout of cardio, like in the past, or even lifting, and like I just laid on the couch all day because I was so exhausted afterwards. Versus if I wouldn't have done that, I could have moved around more. I maybe would have played around with my son more. Maybe I would have went on a walk. Maybe I would have done more yard work, or I would have done laundry and walked up and down the steps, all this kind of stuff. So this is why step goal is so helpful, because 1, it doesn't fatigue you too much. 2, it's easy to keep track of. And 3, you can multitask and do a lot of things while getting your steps in. You can go to the grocery store. You can do yard work, things I mentioned there. You can mow the lawn. You can play with your kid inside just by like kind of chasing them around the house or walking around with them. You can do so many things. You can listen to a podcast. You can even read, while you're walking if you have some kind of treadmill to set that up. There are people who even work while walking on their walking pads, with their desk in front of them at the same time. So it's a very easy way to really boost the calorie burn side of the equation, or the calories out, that it's really convenient to fit in your life. Now, if you're not used to walking and getting steps in, and you only get 4,000 steps in per day, like you're going to have to be intentional about increasing that and getting that step number up. It's not just going to come out of the blue if you don't try. But it is a much more less invasive way to increase your calorie burn versus like doing extra cardio just for that purpose. Now, if you want to do extra cardio for health reasons or because you enjoy it, like that's great. But for the purpose of simply like shifting that energy outside of the equation, having a simple step goal is a lot better in my opinion. So those are the 3 levers. That's it. That's what we need to learn how to manipulate and control if we want to change our body composition. Our energy inside of the equation, how many calories we're eating, our muscle mass, so lifting plus our protein, and then our energy outside of the equation. And that's it. And these things, like I mentioned, I dove a little bit deeper into the energy inside of the equation of things. But these things, like, there's so many complex behaviors, complex things that we're exposed to in our day-to-day life that impact these things. So executing on these changes or these adjustments we're trying to make these variables isn't always easy. But these are the 4 simple things that you just need to adjust and change. And these are the 4 simple things on a weekly basis with my one-on-one clients. We do one-on-one check-ins, and I look at all their stuff, and we make adjustments to this every single week if we need to. Or, we keep things the same to these 4 variables if things are going, really well, which happens a lot. But this is it. Like, there's not some like crazy hidden secret necessarily, other than knowing how to make adjustments, knowing when to make these adjustments, and then help with executing on these adjustments too. Like, okay, we're going to increase calories to this level this week or this level. Oh, you're having trouble hitting that calorie range. Why might that be? Let's explore it. Let's come up with more specific, detailed strategy or game plan of how you can better execute on hitting that new calorie range or the protein range we're struggling with here. Here are some protein options. Which one feels good for you? Like there's conversation and, coaching involved in that, but like there isn't anything crazy extreme of, okay, we're going to have 1 gram of carbohydrate at 6 a.m. when you wake up. And then 30 minutes later, we're going to have 2 more grams and that's going to put us in this. And then we're going to have this in another hour. It's not that intricate. It's just not making too many adjustments too quickly, knowing how to actually adjust these, 3 levers, how to actually get out of your own head and out of your own way with these 2. Like so much of this is about the psychology of executing these manipulations and adjustments versus like how your body's actually responding. So many of my clients call me their therapist, just because I do so much mindset work with them along the way too. And that's probably one of the biggest things that people get surprised about with my program is just how like, they don't just get just like a set of macros and you're like, okay, well, we'll make an adjustment next week if we need to. Like there's so much more I kind of challenge you on and the way you think about food and the way you think about exercise, and your mindset completely changes around it. So that's a big part of it too. But if you are not adjusting or tracking even these variables, your calories, protein, steps, and your workouts, if those four things, if you don't have those, like any kind of plan for those, and if you aren't adjusting those on a weekly basis, then it's not surprising you're not really seeing progress, because those are the four big things, or those three levers that you need to be adjusting and paying attention to see progress. And if you're paying attention to, okay, how many carbs you ate past 5 p.m., but you're not paying attention to these three things, you're, like I said in the beginning of this video, missing the forest for the trees and focusing on minor details that really don't matter and missing the big things that do matter. So hopefully this was eye-opening, just to kind of have this broken down a little bit more simply. Like, the human body is complex, and there's so many metabolic processes that happen in the body. So these things aren't always so cut and dry. But if you are not focusing on these three big rocks or these three big levers, then you are really missing the mark. And if you're spinning your wheels and you have no idea how to even track these things, where to even start, like, this is where to start. And if you're struggling still, send me a DM, reach out, let me know. We'll see if one-on-one coaching is for you, or if the I Thrive Collective, my group coaching membership, is for you either. But these are the four big things, or the three big levers that you need to dial in, or you're going to continue spinning your wheels forever. So hopefully this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if it was, and I will see you guys in the next one.